Hey guys, Jacob Dupre here at Sweetwater. I'm going to talk to you about taking care of your hands. So pianists, this is to help you play your best and avoid any unwanted physical stress from playing piano or keyboard. Now the first thing might kind of make you laugh because it's probably, if you took piano as a kid, which a lot of people did, even if you don't still play all that much, the first thing is curve your fingers, right? Well, that is good practice, not just to take care of your hands, which is the way that you play your instrument, so it's undoubtedly the most important thing. I find and catch myself a lot of time flattening out my fingers, but I find that a lot of times when I think even just curving them a little bit more than what I'm used to, or maybe where I'm kind of building a bad habit, my dexterity will improve, my accuracy will improve, and it feels a little bit better to play that way, I think, too. So I want to give you a simple exercise that, again, it's like, your first piano lesson ever, something you might learn, but the basics are important. So everyone knows a major triad, right? So C major triad is C, E, and G. So what you're going to do is mimic that in the other hand, right? So take your hand, and you're just going to double it like that. Now you're going to play in thirds, but what you're going to do is you're going to play a C and E in the left hand, and then an E and a G in the right hand. And then you're going to pulse them back and forth, contrary motion to each other. So you're going to go in and then go out in thirds. Is the reason why it's good for practicing curving your fingers is because it stays in what we call this 5-finger position. So a lot of times when kids are learning piano, they're just taught to stay here, right? Because this is an easy position for our hand to sit, to just be naturally curved. You don't hold your hand like this just naturally. Just as a small note as well, I know there are some types of playing, especially jazz, which I play a lot of jazz, has a lot of strange chords or chords that aren't maybe as natural for the hand, obviously as a 5-finger position or something like that, and your fingers will flatten out a little bit. I understand that, and that's cool, but this exercise kind of just puts you in a little box and just makes you focus on one part of your physical technique, which is the point. This is the whole exercise. So you start with major triad, and then you go to minor triad, so you just make the E, E flat. And the whole time you're just focused on staying relaxed and keeping your fingers just a nice curve. You don't tighten them in, obviously. You've probably never seen anybody play piano like that. Okay, so then you do minor. And then diminished, so what you're going to do is make the G to a G flat or F sharp and then continue. And then you go up a half step. Or go up a fourth if you like. And take it through all its paces. Go through all the keys if you can. That might be a challenge, especially if you're a beginner pianist and you're just really trying to get a grapple around your E, C, G, and A minor chords so you can play some simple pop tunes. Then don't necessarily worry about other keys. This is really just about the physical warm-up for starters. When I do want something that's kind of a white key type exercise for warming up, this is one that I like to come to. So if you want to expand upon it and you want to use it as more of a warm-up and you want something a little more challenging, you can expand it. So if you take the right hand and you put it up another third on the major scale, so we're thinking C major, which is all the white notes, then you can go through your major 7 chords, right? So if you start like this, you have C and E, and then G and B on the top. Now you have a C major 7 chord. So now you can take it through all the major 7 chords. So I'll go through C major 7, then C dominant 7 with a flat 7, C minor 7, which is minor third, minor 7, half diminished, which is with a flat 3, flat 5, and flat 7, and then fully diminished. So here's how that would look. And And there are other ones you could do. You could also throw in a minor major 7, which is only a lowered third. And then this is a great one to take into other keys, but because besides being a good warm-up for the 5-finger position, focusing on a nice curve, being just a general good warm-up for your hands, it's also a good theory warm-up. It's a good way to continue to practice and get better at your 7 chords and other keys. The second thing is something that I've kind of learned over time, and something that hasn't been super natural in my playing for a long time, but something that I always try to do and I strive for, which is to use, whenever possible, use more weight than actual muscle. What I mean by that is, rather than using finger strength or using tension or using, your wrists, whatever, you use more of just the natural weight, right? Something that I do, I did mention that I don't do a lot of these kind of typical warm-up things, but a lot of times when I do sit down on the piano the first time, I'll do something that's kind of basic, like a basic stride pattern in the left hand. So something like, and when I'm doing that, I'm keeping my arm real loose. I'm almost just kind of like if I was just going, just like plopping my hand down. I mean, my arm has got about this much tension in it. I'm only using just enough finger strength just to be accurate and to make sure I hit the notes and the chords that I want to hit, right? A good exercise you could do for something like that is just to play, something like a C major chord up here and an octave C in the bass, and just let the chord hit it just with letting your hands come down. See, I missed a little bit there, so I need a little bit more tension than that. But I don't need to play the chord like this. See that? That's so unnecessary. One thing about the piano, and I didn't really think about this for a long time until I had a great teacher that told me, it's like, once you play the note, your job's done. Like, unless you're playing a keyboard with aftertouch or you're playing a rolly or something, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a keyboard. Once you've played those notes, your job is done. You don't need tension or anything until you go to play the next note. So all those big chords I was doing just with arm weight, right? And that also has a lot to do with the height you sit at the piano. It's always good to have it kind of be a right angle, not like this. If you're like this, you don't really have any weight to put down. If it's too low, you're just going to be uncomfortable. So all that kind of stuff is important to maintaining your technique and just good physical practice. A couple more quick tips are, if you do play weighted instruments, maybe you started on an acoustic piano and that's what you're used to, when you're playing synth instruments, chill out a little bit. Don't play them so rough. And also, when you're practicing a figure that's bothering you, there's something you just can't get quite right, don't practice it for a whole hour over and over and over and over again, because that's how repetitive stress happens. I know. I'm actually kind of dealing with it right now. I dealt with it in college. And I know the feeling. You want to practice this one thing that's bothering you. You really want to get it, especially, if it's a right hand heavy, and I like playing the fast stuff and arpeggios and intricate lines. But you get a little overexcited and you practice it too much, and then you have to not play for a few days because you've got some kind of problem. So pacing yourself in your practice, and also, once again, not putting too much weight or too much tension into a keyboard when you don't have to. If you are currently looking for a new keyboard to add to your collection, just so you know, I'm playing the Yamaha CP73 stage piano right here. If you're interested in that or any keyboard products, remember you can always call your Sweetwater sales engineer and they'll help you out. Thanks for watching.